So I'm a freelance illustrator and I basically draw for a living. I've always loved fantasy stuff. You know, I used to read all the kind of Brian Jack Redwall, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and all this stuff was kind of core to my being as a kid. But I've been an illustrator for about 15 years and I don't get those kind of jobs. It's not the type of stuff I tend to do. Fame and Fable actually came out of playing like an RPG thing with some friends, and I took on the role as Dungeon Master for a bit, and I built a bunch of monsters and made a bunch of characters, and at the same time we were coming out of lockdown and being in a room with people and playing board games and stuff. Like, I just loved it. So I was like, well, why not try and marry the two things together? Try and just build a game that feels like this sort of fantasy world, but it's also using these common mechanics you would see in board games. I wanted to build something new. I wanted to build a board game that you hadn't played before, using my own illustrations as the kind of inspiration. And I was like, how hard can it be? I was wrong. It's really hard. But like, I've loved that process of being like, this could be anything I want it to be. What is it I enjoy in a board game? What parts of it do I love? Fame and Fable is a light-hearted competitive board game for 1 to 4 players. It is set in a world of monsters, magic and swords. You, intrepid adventurers, will be competing to get the most victory points, known as fame. The player with the most fame at the end of the game wins. On your turn, you will spend actions to recruit cards from the market to make your hand more powerful, use your cards to perform special abilities, or choose to combat monsters. What you do on your turn will grant you fame, which moves your piece around the tracker at the edge of the board. This player is doing brilliantly, but this player is not. The most important cards in the game are your allies. These 50 cards are a diverse group of characters who will join you on your quest. To recruit them from the market into your hand, they have an action cost. This one costs 3 actions, while this one only costs 1. Exhaust an ally to use them, dealing damage to monsters, granting you bonuses, or even sabotaging other players. They can't be used until readied again. Readying an ally can be achieved by using other cards, or waiting for another player to move past a moon space. There's also a whole range of items to collect. These aid you in your quests, but are discarded after use. The best way to gain fame is to fight the monsters you can see on the board. You can plan your move, assess whether your allies can do enough damage, and strategize to maximise your turn. But if you don't like the look of them, or you're just a natural risk taker, you can always draw one at random from the top of the deck instead. The amount of damage you need to do to a monster equals the amount of fame they give you if defeated. But this game bites back, and all 40 monsters are one of a kind, each presenting their own unique challenges. Make the wrong choice and things can go very wrong very quickly. But hey, don't worry, I've built a catch-up mechanic into the game. If you fall behind like this person, you're given extra actions on your turn to give you a helping hand. At the end of your turn, check the contracts visible in the market to see if you earn any bonus fame. But be careful not to land on a legend space if you're not ready for it. You'd have to combat one of these nasty beasts on your next turn. If you defeat the most legends by the end of the game, you get bonus points. The end of the game is triggered when a player passes the champion token. Each other player has one more turn, and whoever ends up furthest around the track wins. A 2-player game typically takes around 45 minutes to an hour to play, but if you're looking for a shorter session, you can place the champion token earlier on the fame track. For a solo game, just flip the board over, remove any cards with the blue corners, set the decks up, and you're ready to play. This version is a test of your ability to manage the board. You are tasked with keeping the realm safe from monsters, which spawn at one of the 6 different locations each turn. These fate cards automate where the monsters appear and where you will find allies and items to help you. You must then choose which location to visit in order to reveal those cards. When monsters spawn in a location, these little action markers fill up the track underneath. If the track is ever filled by 4 markers, it becomes overrun, and you can no longer visit there on a turn. Monsters that would spawn there start spilling out onto neighbouring locations instead. The track under each location represents how many actions you have to spend. The more monsters there are, the less actions you have. If I visit this location, I only have 1 action. This card costs 2 actions, so until I defeat a monster, I can't buy it. Once it's defeated, I can spend the 2 actions to buy the card. Defeating monsters in solo mode does not grant you fame like in the multiplayer version. Instead, move your champion token one space along this track at the top of the board. If you reach the end of the track before all locations get overrun, you win. Simple.